9A 2014-2020 Cultural Plan for a Creative Nanaimo to be introduced by Councillor Patchy, Chair of the Cultural Committee. Councillor Patchy.
Thank you, yours very much. I'll be as short as I can, although I could talk for hours about this wonderful strategy and this wonderful plan, which has almost been in the making for 2 years with a tremendous amount of public participation and input by citizens and stakeholders alike. Now, we have a long list of distinguished delegations, so I'm not going to say too much about it, and we have Ms. Samborski to actually do the presentation, but there's two things that I want to do. I want to read you something that is in the document that came from a survey comment in 2012. And you know, we had the participation of over 1,000 citizens, and many, many good things were presented and sent in. And for anybody who still wonders why we are here with this plan, let me read you that, you know, we don't know who wrote it, but it came to us, and I think it's pretty good. So here goes. Culture is the heart and soul of every community. It needs to be nurtured and cherished and encouraged to grow. It is what makes a city a home instead of just a place we live. It connects us to one another. It is not something we have, but it is who we are. And that explains it just about as good as it gets, as far as I'm concerned. Because there was so much input and so much hard work on the part of many, some on the Culture Committee and some others, I would like your worship to read off those people that were so instrumental in helping with this document, and they are as follows. There's Aramee Robillard, she's the manager of Nanaimo Center for the Arts. Bruce Halliday, manager of the Port Theatre. Doral Neve, manager of Theatre One. Debbie Truman, manager of the Nanaimo Museum. Holly Bright, artistic director of Crimson Coast. Julie Bevan, executive director of the Nanaimo Art Gallery. Kathleen Darby, executive director of the Nanaimo Conservatory of Music. Kim Smythe, member of the Nanaimo Cultural Committee. Margot Holmes, executive director, Vancouver Island Symphony. Marianne Turley, member of the Nanaimo Cultural Committee, as well as Wendy Smitka, member of the Nanaimo Cultural Committee. And with your permission, your worship, I would like all of those present here to just stand and take a bit of applause for all the hard work. One more thing, your worship, before I introduce Ms. Samborski, or I don't have to introduce her, but before she does her job, I want to remind everybody that this Wednesday, you are all invited to the Arts and Culture Awards that are going to be held in the Port Theatre. Starts at 7. It's free, but if you do want to come, and I hope you do, you need to get a ticket. So you need to call the Port Theatre at 250-754-8550 to reserve your seat and be in for a pretty exciting evening. Ms. Samborski.
Thank you, Councillor Patchy, Mayor and Council, and actually thank you to everyone that came out this evening. It's been quite a journey these last 2 years putting together the culture plan with the community. So I just have a few thanks that I'll start out with, which is, of course, thanking Mayor and Council for the last 2 years of support, whether it was for giving us the permission to go out and talk to the community and update the plan and create a new cultural plan for Nanaimo, to making culture vitality one of the 4 pillars of sustainability in your strategic plan. I think for us that really created that groundswell of excitement and enthusiasm that's managed to carry through the last 2 years. Of course, I'd like to thank the community for their involvement, not just in creating the draft plan, but coming back out earlier this year to endorse the plan with us. Our stakeholders, the technical team, which Councillor Patchy recognized, and the staff that worked on it throughout. And even though he's not here because he's in Disneyland, I would like to take an opportunity to recognize Bob Kuhn, who over the last 2 years really gave his heart and soul into creating this plan and working with the community. And so I really appreciated it. And I'm just sorry that Mickey Mouse kind of beat us out tonight. But it is cultural, so.
So what are you going to do after you retire, Bob? Go to Disneyland.
What else do you do? So this plan grows and supports cultural vitality as the fourth pillar, and it's founded on Council's concepts of creativity, diversity, heritage, and innovation. The vision for a creative Nanaimo celebrates a community that is healthy and prosperous. Culture and heritage defines us as a community and a place. It's not something we have, it's who we are, as Councillor Patchy said. It's everything we were and will be. So this process was, I know the last time Mr. Kuhn was here, he took us through a lengthy presentation of the process and how it came, but just in summary, it was over an 18th month of stakeholder feedback and engagement. And really what was most exciting is that it really captured the priorities and the interest and the enthusiasms that the community had. And one of Bob's common lines and phrases throughout has always been that people who participated in the plan see themselves in the plan, whether it's in the quotes or whether it's in the ideas, the strategies, and the actions. And going into this, we knew that we wanted to create a cultural plan for a creative Nanaimo that was based on Nanaimo and not just something that could have come out of the box or from any other community. 4 themes emerged, and so what we heard from the community is, one, it was important that we strengthen the creative sector. And what we really heard was all around partnership and collaboration. That if we kept working on things on our own, or partly with partnerships and sometimes with the odd person, we could go a little bit forward, but truly by identifying our key partners and stakeholders, involving them from the start, having them help create the implementation plan, and then in future working with them to actually implement is where we could strengthen that sector. And what was exciting was going through the process is who that sector really is. I think what really brought it all together is we were doing a revisit with the Chamber of Commerce early this year. And one of the things that Kim Smythe asked the group around the table was to please put up their hand if they worked in the creative sector. And 6 of the board members put up their hands because the creative sector is broad enough that it was inclusive of so many people. Secondly, it was about the creative economy. And this was creating that quality of life in place. And it's the quality of life in place that not only we want today, but we want tomorrow and for future generations. Thirdly, that it was about connecting people, communities, and ideas. And throughout the whole plan, we really heard connectivity. In fact, we would often be asked, well, how come there's so much implementation around parks and trails and bikeways? That's really not a cultural initiative. And in so many ways, it's a reflection of, for the community, what it was. And it wasn't about necessarily a place or a specific place. It was just how we stay connected and how everything that has to do with our culture weaves that together. And fourthly, the culture spaces and places. And loud and clear, we heard that those inside and outdoor spaces were just as important to one another. And so one of the concepts in the outdoors was, constantly was Diner Call Plaza. They really want to know, what does that mean for us in the future? Right to small rehearsal spaces and how we can meet and accommodate those needs today and tomorrow. The plan focuses on building capacity in the arts and culture sector to encourage collaboration and new partnerships. But really, it's larger than that. It's about creating social capital in the community through the arts and culture sector. Whether it's working with our partners to continue them offering a lot of the programs and services that are free to low cost and no cost to the community, whether it's having people come together and leverage those resources so that we can do more community events, or whether we can have a more strategic approach in working together. It really is about creating that building capacity in the arts and culture community and with the arts and culture community. So the plan guides Nanaimo's culture vitality. It provides council with a cultural lens to use when you're making decisions and working through planning processes and projects. The cultural lens applies to everything, whether it's a community plan, a department plan, or strategic plan. It's really asking ourselves, if it's about creating a healthy and prosperous community, does this plan do that? And if it doesn't, then what do we have to do with that plan or that project to ensure that it does? Of course, one of the largest questions we get is around the investment of the plan. And what does that mean for council moving forward? Well, in the late 2013 session, Angus presented us the Arts and Culture Economic Impact Study, where it really indicated that arts and culture in Nanaimo has a $93 million direct economic impact. Similar, though, to other guiding plans, approval of this plan does not result in approval of each of the strategies and actions for council. What it does do is give staff and the community an opportunity to work together on the implementation plans to see what we can do within existing work plans and existing budgets, and then to come back to council with community priorities moving forward. And so there's going to be at least 3 ways that this culture plan will come back to council for updates and approvals. One, you'll get updates through a department work plan when we carry out regular operations, whether it's heritage conservation, grassroots arts and culture, opportunities, creative networking, and education. Secondly, we'll be back in front of council through the annual budget process. A few examples of that are, one of the implementation strategies is to increase the per capita spending for the cultural operating grants from $2.25 to $3 over 5 years. This is something that we'd have to come to council through the annual operating plans so that you could take a look at it through all the other priorities and budget items that you're discussing. With it being a $66,000 change in funding over 5 years, it's definitely something that we wouldn't expect would be approved when we're looking at approving a planning document versus a project document. And thirdly, there's going to be those projects that are a little bit more complex, complicated, or have multi-sector funding in it. And those ones we'd be coming back to council through separate studies and reports. Obviously, at some point in time, they would hit a 5-year capital or operating plan, but projects such as the Port Theatre completion, 25 Victoria Road, and further implementation of the public art plan would see us coming back to council to talk about what that looks like, what the options are, and giving council an opportunity to get either further information or put it into the plan in years to come. And we will be communicating back throughout the next 6 years, of course, through this plan. So whether it's through annual reporting, the annual budget process, project updates, and through the Culture and Heritage Commission reports and minutes. And of course, there's all those other activities where we'll be hoping that council has an opportunity to come out, whether it's for something like the Culture Awards or different activities that we're putting on with our partners moving forward as a way for us to make sure that we're reporting back to you. So moving ahead, what are our next steps? After approval, really what comes down to us is working with the Culture Managers Working Group, which with the new department is one of our key quasi-staff groups that we'll be working with, to go through the plan and take a look at what we have for the implementation, what the priorities are, what we can do within our existing work plan, and start identifying and defining that. Once we identify that, we'll be sharing that with the Culture and Heritage Commission and then through council, and really it's just going to be to get moving ahead. After talking with our partners earlier this year, we feel really confident that there still is a lot of support for the plan and the strategies that are contained within it. So really right now what we're looking forward to is just having the opportunity to get going and start getting the work done.